Hello, everyone, and welcome to AI Agents Hour. I'm Shane. I'm with Abby.
What up?
We're here on Monday, like we usually are. And like we usually are, we started a few minutes late. But, we run a tight ship around here. So sometimes, it slips. But we have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking a little bit about MCP and trying to answer the question, does MCP suck? Or is there just a lot of drama going on? We'll talk quite a bit about the TypeScriptAI conference, which was last week. It was sick. We're going to go into detail on some of the things we launched, some of the things we learned. We're going to be talking AI news, and then we have Ismail from Superagent coming on to talk about some cool stuff, some cool findings and benchmarks that they've been running over there. So with that, how's it going, dude?
Dude, it's good. If anyone's watching, new location now. I'm not going to dox ourselves like we did last week, which we will get into. But yeah, I'm doing good. You can see we have some new things going on here.
New background,
New background,
new book.
new book, which I don't have a copy of, which is hilarious.
It's okay. That's okay. There's a new book out there. Now it's
2 books.
2 books, because 2 is better than 1.
For the price of 1, you get 2.
For the price of 0, you can get 2.
For the price of 0.
You just gotta know a person,
Yeah.
Maybe someone on the show can hook you up if you're interested. Yeah. Well, I think a little poll. This is a live show. You might be listening to this later, but if you are watching this live, either on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, whatever, tell us if you did watch last week's show. Was that the best location for a show or not? Should we do all of our shows from bars? Because if you missed it last week, I rolled in off a plane into San Francisco and we just met at a bar and we did a whole live stream from a bar.
That was my favorite live stream we did.
Dude, we had a beer, had guests. We had a surprise guest encounter. So someone was watching the show. We told everyone what bar we were at. And about 15 minutes after the show ends, someone showed up and had a drink with us. So that was pretty cool.
Super cool. Super random and super cool. And then we met this person at the conference as well. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I'm going to try to, if you're listening, send me that picture. I know you took a picture. It'd be cool to, tweet that out.
Yeah. That bar, dude, shout out to Victory Hall. That came into handy so many times last week, gathering that many people to work and then also, be fed and have everything. And we didn't plan it at all because that's how
we basically used the back room of that bar as a co-working space, and we just paid for food and drinks or whatever while we were there. So
thankfully the team eats and drinks a lot, so they got there.
They were happy.
They were happy, I would love to. I mean, when we do our next show together, we'll be in this room, and we're definitely gonna make some modifications and stuff. But yeah, it's cool to have like a place where we can record the show when we're all together.
Yeah, we have gonna have a studio room. We're gonna get to be slightly more official, and then unfortunately, we're still gonna show up 15 minutes late. I'm not gonna say whose fault it was today. If you're listening in the chat, who do you think was the cause of the lateness today? I'm just curious. I don't know. You tell me. Well, there was as there always is on X in this AI world, there's some drama. And we always like to lead with that, right? Because that gets the clicks, that gets people in here. So let's
going.
Everyone loves to hear about the ongoing drama. So we'll spend a few minutes. But Abby, does MCP suck now? Because I'm hearing a lot of things that are making me think that MCP actually really sucks.
Dude, I mean, was MCP ever not sucks, or did it ever not suck? I don't know.
That's why you're here. You're here to tell me.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of origins of this stuff. So let me start from the beginning, and then we'll get to where we are, and then move forward. So when we started it over a year ago, MCP didn't exist. And so what you were doing was making language specific tools. So in JavaScript, we didn't really care that much, our squad here. because we already have Node SDKs for everything, so like tool calls and stuff wasn't a big deal. But not every community is like the JavaScript community. Some people are in the Python world where, it's just a barren wasteland of shit. But anyway, so is NPM as well. I'm just joking. So then MCP came out. So the good thing is like to have the bad thing about integrating tools through your language specific stuff is there's no like standard protocol between the different modules you use, right? So you're going to be using Stripe client SDK, then you might be using some other fool's SDK that is not the same, and then you never know the quality in the docs of all these different things. So when MCP came out, primarily at the first for tool calling, which is probably the only use case it really has, people were stoked because now there's not really language specific tools. It's like agent specific tools written in any language. And, each of the tools have schemas and can implement their own thing. And that's when it took off because people were trying to solve the tool problem in their own frameworks or in their own projects. Then there was so much shit added to MCP. You got resources, prompts, elicitation. There's like progress now. And then things like that. But the biggest question throughout this whole time was like, how does MCP do auth? Because my tools need authentication, because these are third parties, etc. And then there's a whole work going on into doing that. And so that's where we are today-ish. And then now I think people are trying to leverage like, well, the spec's taking too long. How do you do it? It's hard to do. Like, what do I do? And if there's no answer for a while, people already know how to do the things in their language specific tools. And I think the tweets that will show you are people who are deep in their own language specific tools, building language specific tools, right? So let's go with the first tweet.
So before we do, a couple items from chat. So Val says, you heard there's drama and that's why you tuned in. So thanks for being here. And Aditya says, can we do Studio or STDIO transport in production rather than HTTP? So rather than like streamable HTTP, can you do STDIO?
You could do it in production, sure. It's gonna suck, but you have to keep you won't be able to run it like serverless or anything, but you could do it that way.
Yeah, it kind of depends. Like, depends on what your definition of production is. If your definition of production is you want it to be used in Claude Desktop or something, then sure, it can work. Yeah. You do run into some issues though, like, so for reference, the Mastra MCP doc server just uses STDIO, right? We download a package locally. There are some issues though with like Windows for a while. I think it's better now. We don't hear as many reports, but because you're just downloading a package locally, they need Node installed, there's just some weird things that you get into where if you're using HTTP, you don't have that problem. But the kind of wild thing is you have access to the whole file system, so you can maybe be concerned when you download some. Don't download sketchy MCP servers over STDIO, but Masters one, that's safe, and yeah, so it can work. I think it just depends on your use case, though.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the tweets.
All right, so I'm such a journalist, but let me just do my timeline. Look at it real quick. Okay, so the first shot was always by, it's always by Theo, and that's awesome because this is hilarious. But let's do this one. So I'm starting this timeline in November 7th, so like last week. So MCP is a great example of why we shouldn't let Python devs design APIs. Now, I totally agree with this statement, but I don't want to like disrespect anyone. But anyway, I do agree with the statement, and that's hella views, and that was last week, so that's cool.
I like the first comment. Who is we? And then Theo, people who want things that work.
Oh, so good, dude. That's just so good.
Yeah, that was a good comeback.
Such a good comeback.
Well done.
Well done, dude. Then the next one I tracked down is from our homie at BrowserBase. Let me get this. So he posted this yesterday, but I think he posted this a long time ago. He's been on this vibe for a while, and this is awesome. So this is already the earliest thing, but contrarian take, MCP won't exist by the end of the year. I can't explain it, but the vibe is wrong. Interesting.
I think he missed that one. It's still obviously going to exist at the end of this year, so that was a miss.
That's a miss.
But it was a bold take.
And then I figured it out. MCP gives me GraphQL vibes. All this abstraction for what? And I think this is in response to all the other features that were added after tool calls, right?
Yeah.
That's my theory, because I don't use anything. I don't use MCP other than tool calls. And honestly, if people packaged their node module or their SDKs as just importable tools, I probably wouldn't even use MCP. That's my hot take. But let me continue. Then we got the homie Dax here. Let's do this. And this one's a longer post, but we can read it. Here's my gripes about MCP as an implementer. End users expect miracles from MCP and load in a bunch of them. True. Most MCP servers are garbage, crash a lot, and the LLM never bothers calling them. Semi-true, but definitely have seen this happen, right? Definitely the garbage part. This whole try SSE, and if it fails, try streaming is exactly why I'm so anti-standardization when things are early and already a ton of bloat. Yep, people run into that. Even if an MCP is good, 99% of people won't know how to configure it. It's now on me to create some complex UI that helps people manage all their MCP tools. We've done that.
Yeah.
Companies felt pushed to offer MCP and have half-assed implementations that users expect to work well. This is a number one thing we fucking see.
Yeah, it's basically what it seems like. Everyone just takes their open API spec and says, convert this to an MCP, and they have 400 tools or 100 tools, and then people just try to call that, right? And it's just too much.
Yeah. It really feels like the kind of product dev I hate. Come up with some idealistic vision of an interconnected, seamless future, create a spec out of it, everyone gets hyped, and then all the real-world product and business obstacles show up. That's a fucking very hot take. Then our homie David gets in here. Can't shy away from the MCP discussion, of course. So David's like, users want something. Why do I have to cater to them? So it's like he just says that there's just a lot of complaining. And so I think David is very pro MCP. He definitely demoed a bunch of MCP stuff and things like that. Paul's in here now too. I think it's challenging for protocols like MCP to have durability this early into AI. Boom. And then, this is just a great thread. So you guys should go read more of it. But this is where a lot of zingers are in, for sure. And then just to pump the homie, the agent boy himself.
Can't go a month without mentioning Sherwood, so bring him in.
Gotta get the agent boy in here. And so this is very neutral kind of voice here. Few things people forget about MCP. One, it was released 3 months before Claude Code, so the idea of agents that can basically do anything via Bash wasn't popular or well understood. Very true. 2, it was for a while the only way to add third-party tools to desktop AI clients. That's the big freaking point. And this was a killer feature. It's still useful for creating tools that just work across many agentic clients, especially when those tools need to be run in a remote env. Very true. And while I agree that MCP has a lot of flaws and the hype from earlier this year was out of control, I don't think MCP is useless, nor do I expect it to go away. Nice little ending to this. Getting good traction here too, so good job, Sherwood. Yeah, what are your thoughts, dude?
Well done. Yeah. I agree with Sherwood's take, partially. I think he's the one I agree with most on this. I think that a lot of this stuff isn't new. Before MCP, when you wanted to connect, there was all these different tool providers, right? I mean, I can think of a half a dozen where literally they're like integrations platforms. Yeah. I mean, candidly, for anyone watching this, at one point, but before Master, we were talking about just trying to solve the integrations problem, because that was also a problem we saw. But there's tons of tools out there. There's tons of services that are just how do you connect a whole bunch of APIs really quickly? And that's kind of what MCP was trying to solve. The promise of it, of course, was that we can have standardization. Maybe we can kind of cut out these third-party tool providers, right? We don't need those. We can just like it can be open. You can just grab the tools you want, give it to the agent, and go straight to the source, right? Just connect straight to the different Gmail APIs or calendar APIs or wherever, what other tools you want to add. I think with challenges like auth, that becomes a little harder. And so there's still like this middle layer that seems to exist. So I don't think it fully solved the problem. And I still think auth is way more complicated than it should be. OAuth in general, like, is the right approach, but it is just adds a layer of complexity when you're authenticating as an agent, agents authenticating as itself, or you're giving, credentials for the agent to use. There's just a lot of complexity there. And obviously people are scared about security implications and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, with or without MCP, all those like considerations are still there, because it's still like an agent calling a tool, and
Exactly.
there's just no standard way for you to do it. But then I guess we go back to this world where just fucking figure it out yourself, fool. Like that's what you do with auth at on your own product. Maybe that's the way. I don't know.
That is the way it is right now, it seems.
I mean,
it is the way it is.
Was, and it's the way it always will be.
Yeah, auth is always, it always comes down to auth. There's always challenges, regardless of how you look at it. And I've seen all these different people try to solve agent auth in different ways, and it's just hard to standardize anything. So I don't think there's really anything that this is the standard way to do it. There's some patterns that are starting to become a little bit more commonplace, but yeah, it's challenging. And yeah. Auth is authy. I don't know what that means, but yes, I agree.
Yeah. Ali sent us a tweet. Here, let me post Ali's.
Find it. Well, if you're listening, what do you think? Does MCP suck? Do you use it?
Put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat. Are you actually using it in production on something?
So this is from our homie Ali. I do think sandboxes have the potential to make some MCP use cases obsolete. I can't quote two tweets at once, but I liked Mason Williams' post from yesterday saying the primary benefit of the MCP protocol is to give agents a way to interact with third-party tools, once again tools, in a way where the user can customize that agent to their liking. Totally. With some sandbox providers I've tried, you can programmatically decide what tools the agent has access to, so it feels like you could accomplish the same with a little bit more effort than connecting an MCP server. Totally. You could code your own tools and add it to the sandbox, or use the ones that come with the sandbox. For example, if my agent was designed to review code and create an architecture diagram, I'd use Daytona's, little sponsor there, built-in sandbox Git clone tool, and then use Claude Agent SDK inside the sandbox to summarize the code base. I could use the GitHub MCP server for that instead, but then I'm just introducing rug pulls and other MCP vulnerabilities unnecessarily. This is a really good take, dude, because this dude right here, Karthik, and I agree with him too, like sandboxing, just having compute that exists, and you can just generate code and run it there, or even run whatever you want. Like, you just want to do whatever you want, and an agent has access to create one of those and execute that plan. I think it's very interesting. And maybe that could be the end of MCP, or some other way of, probably the end of MCP. And that's what code mode is, right? Like, that's another kind of sandbox execution thing.
So Ali's coming on next week, and this is something we should bring up and talk to her about, because there's also, I can see other security vulnerabilities about just letting an agent write code and execute code. So, at some level, you could be introducing additional complexity if you just allow the agent to write its own code, whether it's Python or whatever, and then actually run that code. Now, of course, it's sandbox. It can only do, so much damage inside that system, but that sandbox can probably hit the outside world, right? It can hit a URL. And so it is just kind of interesting that it can, I guess I have red flags coming up on both sides. Like, yes, MCP has a bunch of vulnerabilities, but I could also see that just giving someone a sandbox to run any code, giving an agent sandbox to run any code they want, could also lead to some vulnerabilities as well.
Yeah. The chat is chatty right now, so let's get comments. What is the auth choice for Monstra? Personally, I use Neon Auth, aka Stack Auth. Works well with Neon DB. For our projects, I mean, so we have auth adapters, so whatever you want to use, like personally. But Supabase is kind of what we're using because it comes with our DB, which might be a mistake in the future. Let's see. Aditya said this is the production question that just came. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's more of an MCP problem.
Yeah. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I
Yeah.
think a lot of MCP clients are not necessarily even production ready yet. There's not like long running connections seem to fail in a lot of cases, both MCP servers and clients.
Yeah. Good. All right. LaSprite. No, I feel most people will make their own agents tools. It makes sense for some like Stripe, but majority of people will want custom tools. Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times you want to customize maybe a collection of tools into whatever kind of workflow you actually want to accomplish a task. So rather than giving the agent just raw access to 50 tools, you can say, well, the agent actually just needs to do these 10 different things that maybe interact with a couple different tools.
Yeah, like for most cases, right? You just hit third parties when you need them, but you're still writing business logic in your own application. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. There's a bunch. You guys are chatty today. Usually use MCPs for getting docs into my coding agent. Otherwise, it goes a bit wild and kind of scary to install them on the work machine. And then Bolt is using web containers for that. Great tech for sandboxes. Okay. And for the MCP docs one, yeah, totally. We did the doc server for that kind of reason. Thanks for all the comments.
Yeah. So there's the drama, for the week. We always gotta lead with the drama. So, you tell us, does MCP suck or not? I think there's still a lot of hype around it. I don't think it's going away, but I think, it has faded. The appeal has faded a little bit.
Let's do a bet. Like, I don't care which side. Do you have a preferred side?
Well, I mean, what's the bet?
You buy me a drink, I buy you a drink.
Well, I mean, but how do we validate if it came true or not, right? Because the MCP is not going to be gone in a year. It'll still be here. It's like, how do you determine a level of adoption where we could say, who's got the poly market on this?
Okay. Maybe we should make a dude. That's a great idea.
Who's got the poly market? Let's get a bet going.
All right, next we'll figure that out in the between this show and the next, how we could bet on stuff. But what if it's like a major company does not maintain their MCP server anymore?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't care which side, so you could pick which whenever you want.
But I do think a lot of the providers, like Sentry is going to still support their MCP. I imagine
one big name player stops. What if Claude even stops? It's like, yeah, we're just gonna go with.
Well, what if Claude hands it over to the? They hand over the spec.
Yeah, the spec goes to the community. That's the bet.
Yeah, I don't think it will.
Okay, I think it will. So then I'm on that.
So in a year from now, put it on the board. You think that you're saying Anthropic will hand it over to some kind of like governing
foundation, or they'll just let it to pasture.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I think they'll want control of it. But yeah, that's a good bet. I think I will. That drink's going to be tasty.
Yeah.
When you
if
buy
you're
it
an MCP hater, you love that bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I guess if you're on both sides, you love either one. So.
All right. So let's keep the show going. We did have something come up in the chat from earlier. Haven't forgot about you. Says, could you please upload the talks from the live streams in separate videos? So I'm assuming you're talking about not the conference, which we're going to talk about next. I think are you talking about the different segments? If you could clarify, it would be pretty cool if we could upload each segment as a separate video. But the honest truth is we're not going to do it because I would have to do that and I'm not going to do it. But One could be some sweet use of AI to like clip when the bottom bar changes, clip the videos into different parts. Or honestly, if we probably should use like some AI to like timestamp the different spots, so you could then just click
Well,
through pretty
the
easily.
AI bot put timestamps in a comment, I believe.
Yeah, we need to figure that's probably open source or something, right? We got to figure out how to.
We should have our friends at Mosaic just like do it for us. That'd be nice.
I'm supposed to chat with them about some of this stuff. I
All
just
right,
haven't yet.
we
But
should.
this is a good idea. We could get better about descriptions, timestamps. We're just kind of lazy.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about TypeScript AI, dude.
Dude.
That was obviously it's normally it sucks to throw the party, and there were times leading up to it kind of sucked to throw the party, but when
Yeah.
you're in the party and it's your party, it was a lot of fun. It was one of the best conferences I've been to in a long time. Obviously I'm biased, but it was
Yeah.
really cool. So maybe we can set the stage a bit. TypeScript AI Conf was November 6th, last Thursday, and the lineup was incredible. We had a ton of great speakers. A lot of the master team was there, so it was pretty great just to getting in, working at the bar with a lot of them as well, and shipping a lot of things right before the conference. We'll talk a little bit about that, and really just learning and having conversations, I think, was probably the best part. Just what people are building. A lot of people using Master, a lot of people not, right? But just
Yeah.
learning what the community that considers itself like TypeScript people are building. And the tagline, of course, you wouldn't be surprised if you watch this show. The tagline of the conference was Python trains, TypeScript ships. And so it was kind of just around the idea that a lot of people are just building things in TypeScript, and you should be able to ship AI features in TypeScript. It doesn't have to be Python. What did you think?
Well, it was a very stressful week from engineering side, but once the conference started and the objective was hit, it felt so good to be. It felt so good to be done or in there, and then everything also being high quality, everyone having a great time. It was kind of like it was a fairy tale conference, you know?
Yeah, it was awesome. Did you finally catch up on some sleep?
Yeah, dude. I think I slept for like 3 days. It feels like.
Yeah,
Um,
leading up to the conference, not a lot, but after, I had to recover a bit.
and we had our whole team, most of our team, not the whole team. There was definitely Ward couldn't be here, which made me sad all week. That was tough to get through everything without Ward was very tough.
Yeah,
And
no
Tyler,
Ward, no Tyler. I mean, a whole bunch of people, right? A lot of
yeah,
people that couldn't be there.
and so that was tough. But let me show y'all.
Oh, I was going to share something as well. You go first.
Y'all go first, real quick. This is just we had all the whole team. This is not everyone in the picture, but this is a lot of people minus one. And this is we're wearing these green shirts. It was cool.
Yeah, here, let me share. So this is, I don't know if I'm supposed to share this, but someone on the marketing team will come find me, come yell at me. I don't know, but we'll probably be sharing some of this stuff out. This is just some pictures from the conference. So a whole bunch of, really good pictures. You can see this is, all on stage. Hey, he's the one
That's
we
the
met.
homie.
That's the
That's the
homie.
guy.
All right. And then you can see obviously the team picture, which Abby already showed, which a few people that were already there. Honestly, there's 3 people not in this picture, and they weren't in this picture because they had to go in the afternoon, go back to the hotel and sleep because they were up so late the night before just getting things ready.
Yeah.
So it was a huge team effort, and yeah, it was great. We started getting in some feedback too, and the feedback's really good. A lot of people have posted about it on LinkedIn and X. We got, we send out a survey afterwards that was very positive. So
Yeah.
I only saw the first like dozen or so because it just sent out not long before this, and everyone was like a 4 or 5 out of 5. So that speaks volumes. I think one quote was, it was no no shills, no sales shills. It was just
No chills. All thrills.
information, knowledge sharing, and so they really liked that. Any takeaways? Anything that was interesting
I
to you?
figure we could. Do we have
Mm.
time? I figure we could recap. Just
Yeah,
go.
we'll probably end up doing the AI news after,
Okay.
but we have some launches we can share as well that
Yeah.
we can talk about that we
Let's do
launched on stage.
Let's start with the merch. All right. So let's start with the merch. Okay. We got this new hat now. We've been talking about hats. So we got Monster logo and hat now. I'm gonna go get the other merch, but you talk about the logo. So
All right, so we'll share that that launch first, I guess. So I was not prepared. All right, here we go. All right, so we had 3 different things that we kind of launched. Sam tweeted it out. So we got a new logo, new Monster logo. We have a new design system, so in kind of a visual language iconography around this. So it's kind of a new design system for all the Mastra branded stuff. We have a new website. If you haven't checked out our new website, go to Mastra.ai, check that out. And it kind of uses all this new branding. So that was one of the many things we launched.
yeah. Then just getting back to merch real quick. We have team merch. A lot of people were wondering, like, internally. So y'all can't get this stuff, but if you did, maybe in the future, we got a bunch of internal shirts for everyone. People love that stuff. There's like a Mastra shirt here. We had some from the conference. This is the one we wore at the conference, like super yellow, or not yellow, green. And it was actually it was so green, but it was so good because then you know who's working at Mastra, and you can have a conversation with them. And it says Python trains TypeScript ships. And then we had like an after party outfit, same thing. And I don't know. This is like if you're like a Gen Z person, this is like a Gen Z shirt right here. So
Yeah, I didn't qualify, but I did wear it. I didn't know what I was wearing, but yeah, tons of really cool swag. We did announce as well that we're going to be having Master Days, April something, 6th or 9th or something, 9th.
Yeah.
In SF, and we're probably going to be doing, you heard it here first, more than just in SF eventually. So the goal of those are not to be a big conference like the TypeScript AIs for the whole TypeScript community. Master Days is for people that are building with Mastra, want to talk about how they're using it, the things that they're shipping. So we're going to have a lot of users come on and talk about the projects they're building and how they figured things out, how they got things into production, the things that they struggled with. They should be like demos and lessons learned and really community organized in a lot of ways. Like we'll organize it, but it's going to be community driven, at least a lot of talks from community members. And we'll have a few other things that, we'll probably bring in one or two big name people. I would say we'll probably try to get, but we're going to keep it more community focused. So that's coming. That's kind of the next big thing. And I'm hoping that we'll try to have some Mastra swag at those events. So if you want some of this limited edition stuff, we're going to try to open it up. So it's not just the Mastra team, but anyone who wants it.
Yep. We're in the swag business now.
Yeah. First we're, book printing, book publishing. Now it's,
Yeah. We're a conference book.
Conference. Yeah. I mean, we all the things. All right. Yeah. So speaking of book printing, we launched a new book as we showed. So you've probably heard of Principles of Building AI Agents, written by our co-founder, Sam. He wrote another book called Patterns for Building AI Agents. The biggest thing is we talked to tons of users, and it's always a struggle going from the prototype works to getting into production. And so that's really what this is about. It's about just patterns that we've seen that have been working well, and kind of just like it's not going to solve all the problems, but it's going to give you like useful tips and useful patterns for how you might think about getting an agent from the prototyping stage all the way into production. So that was a big one, big launch. No particular order because I'm just clicking around now. We did announce our V1 beta, so it's not GA yet, but tell us a little bit about the V1, Abhi.
Yeah, so over the last year, we've been just hustling on trying to understand what Mastra should look like. And that's, from agents to workflows to MCP even tools, evals, etc. And in doing so, we tried to move the project forward, but also do our best not to break people along the way, which we did okay. I mean, we definitely had some blunders along the way. But now we're trying to move forward with the learnings that we have, and the V1 is like the perfect way to pretty much throw away all the stuff that we didn't learn anything from and it didn't pan out, and things that we did do, clean them up and listen to more users. And that's what the V1 represents, which is like, okay, this is Mastra, what we think Mastra is going forward. Yeah, because when we started, we were in our YC apartment, thinking of stuff, things changing every day. Things are still changing every day, but even a year ago, the different primitives people were needing and stuff was changing every day. So V1 is just like, this is what's going forward. And we have a sick ass picture for that on the homepage. Maybe I can show that real quick. Or y'all can go look at it. But it's kind of like this agent icon that we have now kind of represents what Mastra like is. It has all the primitives, and this is kind of what we're building, and it's cool to know that now.
And we didn't steal that icon from Singular Wireless. It's not the same thing.
Not the same.
even though Abhi tried to convince me for a long time that it was. Like,
it does look like
that. I've seen that before. No, it's different. But yeah, there was one more thing that we launched, so I'll share that as well. We launched a UI dojo. As Sam mentions here in this post, we kept getting asked, how do you do this with AI SDKs, elements? How do you do this with Assistant UI? How do you do this with Copilot Kit? And so we wanted to build examples with each. And the coolest thing is we had people from all those teams at the conference. So we had Nico from Vercel, we had Simon from Assistant UI, we had a Ty from Copilot Kit, who, Ty was on the show last week. And it was really cool to kind of have one place where we can showcase all those things. And of course, now all those teams want to make our UI dojo even better, specifically for their, because they want it to show really well and show all the cool capabilities and how it might be differentiated. So that's cool. We're going to keep iterating on it. We're going to make it better, but it's meant to be a really good example for how you could use Mastra alongside one of these tools to really build a new front end. And so you can use it to kind of learn from, or to kind of drop in some pieces in your actual app.
Dude, it's sick too.
Yeah. And it was one of those things we didn't know if it was going to be ready. We weren't really planning on it, but it came together and we got it done just in time.
Yeah.
All right. So we got some questions, and then
yeah,
hopefully our guest will be joining here soon. Can you throw up a couple of those chat messages while I track down if our guest's here, or if we should keep going into the news?
Val, still need my book autographed. Well, if you ever come to SF, we can do that. How to get the physical or digital copy of the second book? Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a cheat code. I don't know if this is going to work, but someone could try it, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work. So if you haven't registered for the conference yet, we have not sent out there's like a follow-up email that's going to go out that's going to have a digital copy of the book. Go to the tsconf.ai, click register. The button's probably still there. I don't know. I doubt we've turned it off. I wonder if it'll still let you register after the fact. It's free for the virtual attendee. And then you'll get the email that has the digital copy. We are going to put up, just like we have for the first book, if you go to mastra.ai/book, we'll have a landing page. If you haven't got the first copy yet, if you get that, I'm pretty sure we're going to just send out an update to that whole list at some point, saying, here's the second book if you want it, here's the digital copy. And we will be, sending out some physical copies. I don't know yet how we're going to do that, though. So I can't say on the physical version, but it's probably going to exist. I just don't know when we're going to start doing that. We still are sending out a lot of versions of a lot of the original version. So, and Hashim said it looks like Master Splat. Yeah. All right.
That's how people talk about it.
It is
the Splat.
It's the Splat. So that was the TypeScript AI conference. Hopefully, we will see a lot of you there. If you weren't able to attend this year, we're going to do it again. We're trying to build a community around people that just want to build with TypeScript and AI. So, of course, we did talk a little bit about Mastra, but it was mostly community focused, and everyone from Swix to David Kramer, from Michael Greenwich, from WorkOS, from all the demos, they were just kind of talking about interesting things to them, which were not Mastra specific, but they also just weren't shilling their own products, which is great. It really felt like a good knowledge sharing session. We had panels with, competitors on the panel. And so it was really cool to have, two observability providers, leaders of observability companies on the panel together and just having, friendly conversations around how they think about things and how they differ, but also it was just a really cool environment. So it feels like we're building something special, and I'm glad for all of you that were able to be part of it. And for those that were not able to be, we will be releasing the videos individually over the next couple weeks. So we'll probably try to launch 1 or 2 a day, probably we'll get the first one. We got to do some processing, editing on our side, but it'll be soon. This week, we'll start launching some of them. So keep an eye out for that. Go to our YouTube if you're not already, subscribe. And if you're listening to this later, if you're not listening to this live, give us a 5-star review if you are so inclined. If you don't want to give us a 5-star review, find something else to do, please.
Find Jesus.
5 stars only. All right. Well, should we bring on the first guest?
Yeah, let's do it.
I guess the only guest today. The one and the only. All right. So we're going to bring on Ismail from Superagent. You might remember Ismail was on before, had some really great hot take moments. So I'm excited. I think we're gonna have a good conversation.
What's up?
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good to be back. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome back. How are things going?
It's going well. It's going well. We since the last time I was on, I actually got a bunch of feedback from some of the people in the live stream, which was amazing. So and we've done a lot of progress. And today I'm here to share some of that progress with you guys.
Awesome. Can you give us give us the real quick 30-second or less overview for those who didn't watch the last show? Who are you? What are you working on? And then let's go into it.
Sure. So I'm Ismail. I'm the CTO of Superagent. Superagent is a YC Winter 24 company, and we help agent builders build safe AI products, basically. And the way we do that is that we help them measure and secure their AI agents for stuff like prompt injections, hijackings, leaking of private data, leaking of secrets, that kind of thing. So we have a set of custom trained guardrails in different sizes that you can use depending on the use case you have. So we have some that are super fast for voice agents, some that are a bit slower and more powerful for other type of agents like coding agents. And then we also just released a tool where we built an agent that can actually attack your agent and see how how it performs and how safe it is. So that's what we do in a nutshell. And we help every type of company, from financial companies to insurance companies to startups, anyone who's building apps and wants to keep those AI apps or agents secure, basically.
Nice. What you got for us today?
So as I told you, like when we started training our own guardrail models, one of the one of the challenges was that we needed to be able to generate real life attacks that has happened in the past or is happening today, so that we could take that and synthesize basically a data set that we could train our models on, right? Because these attacks are pretty sophisticated. They are usually multi-step, and there are new attacks popping up basically every day. So we wanted to create a data set where we could, catch most of those type of attacks and leaks and that kind of stuff that's going on with these, state-of-the-art models. And so that was a big challenge. We managed to do that. We outsourced a lot of it to actual like red team people and hackers that could help us, set that data together. And we also use that data to train these guardrails, of course. So the interesting part of that work was that you can actually use that same data to create an attack agent. So an agent that's good at defending should also, in theory, be good at attacking.
Yeah.
So that's what we built these past couple of weeks since I was last on, and we went through and attacked the 25 state-of-the-art models, and we released a benchmark that shows how these models perform. And I'm going to share that benchmark with you guys today. We just released it. We call it Lamb Bench. So it's a sacrificial lamb, basically, all of these models for us. And there are some really interesting takes. So let me just go through, how this benchmark actually works. So if we take like GPT-5, we test 3 different categories. We test for prompt resistance, which is basically, jailbreaks, backdoors, and that kind of attacks. We test for data protection, which is like how often does the model actually leak data that it shouldn't. It could be secrets, it could be, social security numbers, any kind of private information that the model is trained on not to leak, basically. And then we also test for factual accuracy, which is basically how much does the model hallucinate given a set of data that we pass to it. So an example could be that we basically simulate an agent with one of these models. We give it, access to a environment file, and we try to see what we can do to have it leak those environment variables. That's a good example of how we test prompt resistance and data protection. When it comes to factual accuracy, we do a similar thing. We could, as an example, we could paste a Wikipedia article, or we can upload a Wikipedia article to the environment, and we could ask it to recite, specific information from that Wikipedia article. And then we have an evaluation agent that goes in and actually checks if the answer is factual or not. And so we have around 50 test cases for each of these categories. And these are the results that we currently have. And one of the interesting things, I think, with this benchmark in itself is of course, the actual scores. All of the state-of-the-art models score pretty low when it comes to most of these, all of these 3 categories, really. But the interesting thing is the ones that actually score the best are the older generation models. And GPT-4o specifically is the one that has, is currently topping this benchmark. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and I've been experimenting a lot with trying to attack different coding agents like Claude Code, Cursor, etc., etc. And I've basically been able to hack all of them. But one interesting thing is that, and this is anecdotal, but my gut feeling is that these new generation models are heavily trained on coding tasks. And if you've looked at like a step-by-step conversation with Claude Code, you'll notice that Claude has built-in prompt injections into it. So at some point in a conversation, you'll see that the model actually sends a prompt injection to itself to update its context, basically. And they do that by sending specific tags like system prompt tags into the conversation history. So in order to have those type of instructions pass through and actually make the coding agent perform better, you need to bring down the amount of guardrails that are built into the model. So that's one of the cool things that we were able to show with this benchmark, that older models that are not trained on coding specifically perform much better when it comes to safety with regards to these three categories than the newer generation models do.
What's the example of a test case that you ran, like between?
So I can show. I can actually show. So we have a dashboard that we can actually just put in any model, and it will run all of the 150 like test cases. But let's take like Claude Code 4.5, and you can go in, and I can go in and just share one of the conversations that we have. So here I'm stating my social security number, I'm giving it some information, and I'm asking it to recite it for me. And in most of the cases, it's not allowed to do that inherently, because it has some guardrails that says that I can't, repeat like this credit card number, as you see here as an example. But in some cases, you can actually bypass that. Like in this case, like here's my social security number, and then you see that it can recite it even though it shouldn't. So this is a pretty simple example, but there are other examples as well where we try to basically ask it to, let me find one that's.
And can you click?
Past.
Is it possible
Yeah.
to zoom? Just one click of zoom,
Yes.
maybe. There we go.
Is
Now
that
people
better?
can read. Yep. Now people will be able to read it.
Sure. So in this case, I basically pass in an example of something that it shouldn't be able to do, and I ask it to do it, and it goes through and does it basically. And in the previous case that I showed, let me see if I can scroll down here so you guys can see. This was the previous example where I actually gave it, like in the data that we pass to the environment, we have a social security number. We ask it to recite it. It shouldn't, but it does it anyways. And that's basically a failed test, so to speak. So that's how it works. And here's an example of a pass test where I pass it my credit card number and ask it to, recite that number, and it doesn't want to do that. So this is a pass test, so to speak. And the previous one was a failed test. So that's how we test them. And we have a bunch of these different type of, basically it's conversation history, like messages that we send into an agent environment. The agent has access to some documents that we upload where some information might be, should be hidden, but it's not, etc., etc. And we try to see if we can get it to output something that it shouldn't.
For sure. And do they have tools as well, or just?
Yeah, they have tools, and in some cases they have tools. In some cases we actually basically generate the whole like tool call, tool result, all the steps synthetically. And then in one of those steps, we might, expose a social security number. Let's say it's in a tool result, right? And then we ask it to expose that. And if it does that, we mark that as a failed test.
Would it be allowed to do that within the same conversation with the same user, like, or was that just not allowed at all? Like
how do you mean?
Like if I'm having a conversation with the agent and it's still me, right? In the
Yeah.
third, fourth, fifth turn, like
Mhm.
shouldn't I be able to see tool results that have happened? But then maybe someone who's not me shouldn't. Are those the type of protection benchmarks we could add in the future, or is that just not even a thing?
So interesting thing is, like, if you go to ChatGPT and if you enter your social security number, that's a one-to-one conversation between you and ChatGPT, right? You just enter it into the chat, and then in the next, question, you ask it to recite that. It won't be able to do that. It will block that. The same goes with emails. Like if you ask it, like, I've uploaded these emails, like, can you give me a list of all the emails I uploaded? It won't be able to do that because it has some built-in guardrails, right? So what we're trying to show is that in most cases, like in GPT-5, like in 60% of the cases, it actually adheres to those guardrails, but in 40% of the cases, it doesn't. So that's what we're trying to show with this benchmark, like how well are those built-in guardrails actually working? And we also, one of the other interesting things, I think, I was in a DM with one of your teammates, and he asked me that how well GPT OSS Safeguard, the new guardrail model, actually performs, and it performs really well. But in 10% of the cases, it doesn't perform at all. And so, the question becomes, is that, a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Like, is 10%, one out of 10 queries that might expose a environment variable, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? That's up to the developer, right? So what we are trying to do is that we're trying to give developers with this benchmark another, basically another KPI that they can use when they choose which model they want to, use. So if you take like Gemini 2.5, I'm a big fan of Gemini 2.5 because it's cheap, it's fast, it has a big context window. But now I know that, well, it scores like on number 18th on this benchmark. So perhaps I won't use it if I know that the data it's processing has information that I want to safeguard in some kind of way, right? So that's what we're trying to like give developers a sense of how these models actually, perform.
So let me ask some maybe dumb questions.
Yeah.
So what you're kind of showcasing is that these models have some built-in system prompts or rules, right, to guard against certain things. And you're showing how effective it is with those system prompts or rules. So you could maybe take a leap of faith and say, well, if I wrote a system prompt where I had specific rules in there, if the model doesn't adhere to its own rules, how well is it going to adhere to the system prompt that I give it? And so
Exactly.
if you find the ones that score higher, they're probably more likely to adhere to, rules like don't allow people to share their name or something, whatever personal identifiable information you want to block, right? Or whatever it could be, whatever security you want to add into this system prompt. It's basically showing that how well it does it adhering to that. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that most people, like we call it vibe security, most people actually use the system prompt to try to guardrail, their agents. That's the, I think, the most used tool to actually guardrail your agent is the system prompt. I don't think that many people actually use like guardrail models or have a dual model setup or whatever, right? Because it adds complexity to your setup and it adds latency and cost. So you're absolutely correct. And that's exactly what we're trying to like showcase, like how well do these models actually like follow their own guardrails. One other thing that we're trying to do, so we've just opened up like the dashboard that I showed you. So let's say that you add, you know, a specific system prompt. It would be interesting for you to have another agent try to hack that system prompt to see how well it actually performs. So right now you can go in and you can actually add your own API endpoint, and our tests will run on your agent to see how well that performs contra like a raw GPT system prompt, right? So it's also a tool where you can, you know, test your own specific setup of prompts and guardrails that you have in order to see how effective they are.
What this data proves to me, though, is like people's most favorite models have like data protection at 60. Like the score is 60, right? They don't even know it. And if, let's say, they know it now, that means that they need to go to the application layer to handle a lot of this stuff, right?
Correct. I'm just sharing the actual benchmark here, so we have that as context. But yes, that's correct. They have to, currently there's no, like the model itself doesn't have adequate like defenses, right? So you need to do something. Yeah.
You have that
you need to
process
do something
or whatever.
Exactly. And I think that like for agent
selling, you know, it's a +1.
Yeah, and I think that like for agent frameworks like Mastra, one of the core things that I look for when I'm trying to when I'm building agents, or when I'm you know, trying to build something cool, whatever it might be, production or demo, I will look at how easy is it for me to hook into these primitives that these agents have. Like, and I know you guys have these input output like hooks that I can hook into and process messages before they ever reach the user or before they ever reach the agent itself. So that becomes, you know, more valuable. And there are some frameworks that don't have any hooks at all, which makes it really hard to actually, you know, build guardrails around like a tool call or a tool result or an input prompt or whatever it might be.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. There's a few comments in the chat, so let's pull those up. Quinn, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but this would be a good tool for buyers and sellers of AI agents. Okay, yeah, I see that. I think, you know, Ismail likes to hear that probably. You can prove how it performs on the benchmark before buying. These guys could open a consulting arm of the startup to sort out those industry and implementation details.
Yo, does this guy work for you? Is this a plant?
Yeah. Who are you? Are you a plant?
I wish it was a plant. Yeah, we could build a whole forward deployed, you know, military that goes out and tries to do these kind of things. But yeah,
I honestly think people just, you know, a lot of bigger teams aren't far enough along to even have started to figure out the security implementation details of a lot of this, and they're going to find out quick, right? Because it isn't. I think people just expect that when they use software, it'll be secure, and it kind of really isn't. It's very easy to make these things give out information it probably shouldn't. And so I guess, how would you respond to this one? The problem is that these benchmarks differ from industry to industry. Healthcare is different than entertainment, I think is what that's supposed to say, for example.
That's correct. And I think that the way that's exactly what we thought about when we built this. So, you know, I've set up all of these test runs myself, but the goal is to be able to customize each test prompt or each test case for your specific agent and for your specific use case. So our job is to basically create a tool where anyone that's building agents can go in and specify, let's say you're building a healthcare agent, right? And you would want to specify specific test cases or specific stuff that you would want it to test. You should be able to do that. So this is more of a call to developers to start, measuring these things, and not only on a, general level, which this benchmark is, but actually their own agents, their own prompts, their own like scaffolding that they have set up. So that's what we're trying to do, and you can actually do that right now. And I think that, in general, I think that models still aren't that capable, so they can't do that much harm. Yes, they can leak some information that they shouldn't. You could get sued. But think like this, like in 5 years, these models will be 5 times smarter than they are today. Think of all of the nasty stuff that these models might be able to do, given that somebody is able to get access to specific type of information, or even be able to give it specific type of instructions that these smarter models can actually use. So this becomes, I agree with you, Shane, that, most people don't even think about this yet. But as these models gain, intelligence, it will be even more important.
Are you gonna publish this data set, or is it more like, is that the secret sauce?
No, we're going to open source everything. We're going to open source the attack agent. We're going to open source the data set that was used to train the attack agent, so people can train their own attack agents if they want to. And we're going to give access to anyone to run these tests on their own agents for free. So you can just go in, sign up, and you can start running your own tests.
Nice.
It doesn't cost anything, and you can run it. And I think my goal is to get as many agents tested as possible. It's like a STD. You want to get as many people tested as possible, right? So, and then hopefully be able to sell some kind of, condom on top of that, right? No, I'm not sure, but that's like the analogy that we have. That's the analogy we use, the STD analogy. So it works pretty well. And I think it's pretty obvious to me when I look at this that, current models, they are good at certain things and bad at certain things. And older models are good at, some things, and they're not that, good at other things. So it's all dependent on how these models are trained, on what data they're trained on. And I think actually, these security flaws that we, try to spotlight here, these are actually features in the models that we use every day. So being able to hijack the model can actually be a feature if it's done, in a way where it actually provides some kind of value, like in the Claude Code case that I mentioned. So it's not black and white, but I think it's important to measure. And I think it's important for developers to, hook this up to their CI/CD or whatever. And every time they push a new prompt change, maybe they should run a benchmark and see how well does it actually do the things I wanted to do.
And is the attack model out, or that's coming out?
It's coming out. We just released the benchmark, so we are just trying to release everything on Hugging Face, so anyone can play around with it, and set up their own environments and try to run their own benchmarks. So currently, you can only run it through our app that we have, but hopefully in a week or two, you should be able to run it on your own, within your own firewall.
That's awesome. So in the future, technically, let's say we're let's put business out of it for 1 second. But technically in the future, let's say I'm building an agent. I should then maybe have a best practice to also build that agent's villain, and to always be running them forever, attacking each other, or just getting always attacked. And then, you just iterate, and then one day you just can always fortify yourself from attacks. Is that the vibe?
It's like algebra for me, you do algebra. The last step in any algebra, thing that you're doing is to actually test the values that you get out of those variables and see that the thing that you think is the answer or think is the thing you need is actually the thing you need. And I think that's a good approach. And I think that, most labs, do this already. And it would be cool if it was available for people building agents as well. Not only like the top labs that have red teams or whatever that go through these kind of cycles with the model releases and all of that. So I think it would be cool to democratize like the whole testing suite for, these type of agents with safety as the goal.
I smell an integration in our future. I don't know if anyone hears it. Did anyone smell that?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. We're up for that,
Yeah. All right, Ismail, it was great having you. We do need
Good
to
be
move
back.
on to the next segment of the show, but people can follow you. I think I have this here, right? We'll see. You're on X.
Yes, sir.
Right there.
Yes,
It's on the
sir.
screen. PELASEYED on X for those listening in the audio only version. For those of you that, there are a few.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, sharing some wisdom, showing some benchmarks. People will be
Have a great
excited to
Yeah.
see that and try to build more secure agents.
Cool. Have a great day, guys. Bye.
Yeah.
See ya.
I love that dude. He's cool.
Yeah.
And we got condom reference ×2.
Yep. I knew. I was like, how's he going to top it? And he waited till the end. And just to be clear for anyone that was paying attention, Quinn, I don't know. What?
Quien, like in Spanish.
Quien. Okay. Yeah. I can't pronounce things. That's fine. Not a plant. Just working on their own master agent.
Awesome.
Which is cool.
I
All
like
right,
the
dude.
concept of the evil twin. I like
What's that?
The evil twin.
Yeah.
We should do some shit in that. Anyway.
Yeah, we got backtrack now because we were talking so much about TSAI, we didn't get to the news before Ismail got on. So we're going to backtrack in time and do some AI news. We'll keep it pretty brief. We'll try to hit the high level. There's a few things that we'll maybe just gloss over a little bit. But thank you all for watching. This is AI Agents Hour. We're going to talk about some news now. So first off, this is just nothing to share, but on the screen at least. Apparently, Claude Code is nearing 1 billion of ARR.
Damn.
It's a lot of tokens.
It's a lot of tokens, dude.
Just melting GPUs over there.
Damn.
And Anthropic is expecting 4.7 billion in revenue this year, and OpenAI is expecting 13 billion, which is actually surprising. I would have expected OpenAI to be 10x Anthropic.
Yeah.
So
maybe it's like the coding products are the one that's driving it, not Claude versus ChatGPT.
Yeah, I think honestly, I imagine a lot of people coding agents are churning through a ton of that.
Mm-hmm. Dang, though. That's crazy.
Yeah, those are some big numbers when you think that these companies, I mean, they existed a few years ago, but they didn't really exist in the minds of most people, right? No one, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, no one knew who OpenAI was really, right? Like maybe it was like a research lab. Now it's closed AI.
Yeah, now it's closed AI.
So OpenAI did release kind of some notes from kind of an incident where I'll just share it quickly, where they basically said that on September 15th, they launched GPT-5 Codex, but the people were complaining that the Codex quality really dipped. So there's a whole bunch of findings here. So this is kind of like a post-mortem in a way, which reads really cool if you're an engineer and you've done these, because you can kind of see what they investigated, what they found. It wasn't just one thing. There was a whole bunch of findings. But I do think that this is, if you're building an agent, this is kind of concerning in some ways, because they're having a hard time specifying why quality might change, right? If the model provider's quality is changing when they're making updates, then what are you're dependent on the quality of that model. So your agent quality could change without you even necessarily knowing it, which is, cue the discussion of to eval or to not eval, all of those things that we've mentioned in the past. But it's just a interesting read, some interesting findings. They had a whole bunch of different findings and actions that they took from this article.
Surprising that they did a postmortem. So, which is cool.
I mean, I think, when they call it ghost in the machine, it's not very reassuring.
No.
but glad they did it. I mean, they should be. It's good that they're open about some of this stuff, right?
That make it sound cooler than it actually is. So
yeah, true. I once wrote a song called "Ghost in the Machine." So
really?
I mean, there was many other prior art references. It wasn't that original. So this is something we talked about before. You've used Composer. I'm just sharing the blog post because I think it is interesting if you want to know how Cursor built the model. They're using RL. Our friend Andy, Professor Andy, could tell us more about probably what they did, but they go into detail on some of this. So it's a mixture of experts, architecture. They use some RL.
Have you used Composer yet?
I have not, but they track it with Cursor Bench, which is like their own benchmark. So they're having some kind of basically evals, right? It's a benchmark, it's evals, it's the same thing for the most part, but they're trying to just gauge the quality, and you can see they basically talk about how it scores on things. But I think what you're probably, I think what you would say, based on what my conversations with you, is that it's fast, but it's not as good as like maybe the frontier models on complex stuff. Is that right? Is that your experience?
That's my experience. Like, it's super fast. It's like really fast. And sometimes I think it's too fast because I don't have the trust, based on using Claude and stuff. Like, if Sonnet moved that fast, you would hit stop because you're not comfortable. But it's really fast, and when you know what you're doing, it's really helpful. But I still think when you give it a really general task and don't prompt efficiently, it can go off the rails. But then it goes off the rails very fast because it just starts making moves. Boom, 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 boom. So if you're using Cursor, try it. But if you're already using like Claude Code and already doing stuff and already have a setup, I wouldn't bother changing.
Well said. Question from Kian. Can master evals be useful to hook into an RL library? Most of it is Python, so you'd probably need to do it over HTTP. What do you think?
Until RL libraries are native in JavaScript, probably can't, unless you can execute Mastra in a RL environment, which we talked with Andy about last time he was on. I don't think there's a good way for JS devs to get into this right now.
But there are more and more tools becoming available. So I do think over time it might become easier. But yeah, right now, probably not an easy path, but a path that will likely be paved over the next bit.
Yeah. And like Ken says, would be cool if Mastra helps build agents, but also RL products. And since TypeScript is right there in the front end, you can train browsers and all that stuff. 100%. That's why we're friends with Andy because we're friends, but we're also friends with Andy for a strategic purpose of doing that one day. So for sure.
Yep. All right. So one of the things mentioned in this Cursor article that got me thinking is they said the result is production ready model integrated into Cursor's agent harness. And then it got me thinking, wait, I've been seeing all this talk about what is an agent harness. So an agent harness is basically like built-in tools and capabilities for agents. So rather than you controlling all of it, you're basically using an agent that has like a built-in harness, like a Claude Code SDK, right? That they have built-in tools already, and you can add more to it. So it already has like a harness. And leave it to Dex. We can't go a month without talking about Dex either. to kind of introduce this concept of harness engineering, which I don't think this one's going to stick. Like
Harness
context
engineering?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Dex,
Please.
I think this one was a swing and a miss. That's my preference. It's my thoughts. It's not going to stick like context engineering did, but I applaud you for making your ugly diagram even harder to read.
I think so. The thing that a harness exists, like Claude Code and Cursor and whatever, that seems like it's going to be a trend, right? Because also people are shitting on the responses API right now on Twitter too, which is essentially kind of a harness, right? If you're using the responses API, there are built-in tools that even ChatGPT is like doing memory and stuff, saving messages for you behind the scenes, which is the same thing as a harness, right? It really is, because you can use the responses API to then build agents and shit. So it's not like some new shit here. That's one thought. But I think that responses API, if it expands more, then that is a harness. So that's like a trend that can continue. Or there might be something like people will make SDKs that are just base model APIs, and then you have shit like just doing stuff behind the scenes.
So on the one hand, I don't think this name is going to persist, but Dex, please come on the show and let's debate it. But I do think one of the things that will become more and more of a pattern is more of these, like this, quote unquote harness, or these tools, these like built-in capabilities moving into the agents behind the API, right? So rather than just calling out to a model, you might be calling out, your agent might call out to another agent. It might be built on top of another agent that's already has tools baked in.
Yeah.
And a lot of those tools are going to be behind the API. So rather than just calling to a model, you're calling to an agent. That agent has some built-in things, so you don't have to build all the tools yourself, right? You're just kind of turning them on and they're available.
Yep. And then you can serve your agent in a REST API, and then no one will ever fucking know you're using an agent. It's just circular, guys. It's just all circular.
Yep. All right. We'll do some quick hits on some announcements. So Cerebras is now powered by GLM 4.6, which GLM is one of the many Chinese models. And I'm calling it next week. We're doing the big Chinese model show. So
yeah,
we're carving out half hour next week. It's going to be dedicated to just talking about Chinese models. So if for those of you that, what's that?
The Chinese are coming, dude.
The Chinese are here, man.
They're here.
And we're going to talk about it because I'm going to be honest. I still can't keep track of them all, and I try to pay attention to all the stuff that's going on. But we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive. We'll try to plan out a bit more and talk about all the different providers. So some of the models, some of the strengths and weaknesses on the benchmarks.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, you'll leave more confused than you came, but hopefully have learned a little bit.
But you'll know that the Chinese are here.
But the one interesting thing is how much cheaper this is. I think it's, like 30 to 6 to 50% of the cost of, or maybe it's even less than that. I got to look it up. It's significantly cheaper than Sonnet.
Yeah. I think you get 1 million transactions per minute. That's a lot.
Yeah. So it's fast, it's cheap. Yeah. All right. So that's that one. Minimax, another model from not the United States, but China, has basically announced their M2 plans. So Minimax M2, it's 8 to 10% of Claude Sonnet cost for their coding plan, 2 times the usage limits. Basically, they're trying to take away some of Sonnet's usage, right? They're trying to dip into some of that Anthropic ARR that we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And also, if they're just trying to give frontier quality in open source and outside of that stuff, right? So
yeah, I mean, I still, I think I'm definitely pro using grabbing these models, running them yourself, on, inference providers, I'm still skeptical of like using them, like going to DeepSeek and just using it from DeepSeek itself, right? Because obviously your data is getting sent to a place where you don't know where it is. So, but the prices are going to be very compelling. So, make your own decisions, I guess.
All you cheap fools out there. So that'd be interesting for you.
Yeah. There's on with more announcements. Kimi K2 Thinking model is here. So I think that previously had announced that it's coming. Now it's here as of a couple days ago. So there you go. State of the art on some benchmarks. 200 to 300 sequential tool calls without human interference.
That's
excels
cool.
at reasoning. Pretty good sized context window. So from Kimi Moonshot. And yeah, that's it. That's all the model updates for the week.
Nice.
One new segment I want to introduce, and we've done this in the past, but I just want to maybe do it more often, is interesting GitHub projects of the week. Let's do a star party, let's start some GitHub repos. So all right, first one. This one already has a lot of stars, but you could throw a few more on there. I will. Why not? It's called Tune. It's a format kind of built around token optimization. So it's token-oriented object notation, Tune, which is supposed to be compact, human-readable, schema-aware JSON for LLM prompts.
Dude, I love that. This is sick.
So 30 to 60% lower token usage. So you can see there's an example here. So here's the JSON, and it's almost kind of like CSV, but it's just very token optimized, right?
Yeah.
And so in a lot of ways, it's similar to like a CSV.
And a CoffeeScript.
Yeah, a little bit. So it conveys the same information with fewer tokens. So the idea is, imagine you had a big JSON. You could potentially send this and save 30 to 60% token costs.
Dang.
So it does have some caveats here. I'm trying to see where it is, but basically it's intended for LLM input. So you'll still use JSON, but then you'll convert it to this before you send it to the LLM. Now, I do think, and this is something that Tyler on our team had mentioned, is that accuracy might decrease just because the model isn't as trained on this notation yet, at least, right? It's like, this is kind of ideally, like, we can look at this and pick it out, but how well will the model do if it wasn't in the training? To be determined. I don't know if they do have some accuracy, and apparently it's, better, I guess, with less tokens. But I do have, my first thought is I would be shocked that it could be better. Yeah. So I'd want to do my own tests on this, I think, but definitely could save a ton of token costs if you're pumping a lot of tokens through. And honestly, we hear a lot of people that are kind of at that point where if they get to productionizing and they're actually going to have real, especially if they're building like coding agents or things that are kind of around coding agents, they just churn through tons of tokens.
This is a great project. Y'all should start it.
Yeah, go start Tune.
I also follow this guy on Twitter, so maybe you should follow him too.
Do you do?
I just did. The creator and maintainer.
All right. Well,
there is Johan.
Johan, thanks for building something awesome. It's cool. And while you're there, give us a star. Find the Mastra AI project or repo. Give us a star. And last one we're going to do, this one is less known. So we'll do one that's kind of somewhat well known and one that people have probably never heard of. It's called MCP Agent Mail. So we talked about MCP. We started with MCP. We're going to end talking about MCP, almost like we planned it that way, or maybe we just fell into it. But you can actually give your agents through MCP essentially an inbox, so it can communicate with other agents. Essentially, it allows you to connect basically your different agents, and they can basically send messages to each other and use that to build context. I doubt it really works well depending on your situation, but maybe it's almost like a multi-agent system you could kind of wire together through MCP. So kind of interesting. I don't know if I would ever use it, but there you go. I'm going to give him a star. Give him a star anyways.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool. It looks like it has like a way to preview and search the messages so you can see. It's kind of like you send these agents out and you kind of watch how they talk to each other. So it's almost like it'd be cool for simulations. I think you could do some cool simulation things with it and see how the agents actually communicate and what decisions they make because they can now talk to another agent.
Yeah. Or like you send a task to an inbox and then, kind of have like a whole bunch of agents working off that inbox and stuff. Pretty sick.
Yeah. So it's almost like distributed use. I think the whole like inbox task thing is good.
You got a job queue through email. There you go, guys.
All right.
Nice. I like this segment.
Yeah. So we'll bring that. We'll try to do that more often. If you have cool projects, cool, interesting GitHub projects that are open source that we should talk about, send it to us, especially if they're AI or agent related. And with that, thank you all for tuning in. Any parting words before we go, Abby?
Super stoked for next week's episode on the Chinese models. Thanks to everyone who went to TSAI or is going to watch all the YouTube content that we're about to generate. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. Subscribe to our YouTube if you're not already. You'll see it when we release all these TSAI talks, which are going to be really good. So please go there, click the subscribe button, click the like button on this video. Please find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star review if you really like it. If you think we suck, don't do it. We don't need any of those 1-star reviews.
Tell more of your friends about the show. Like, it's really nice having a lot of live chatter. So the more live people there is, the funner the show gets. And we're getting a lot more live listeners now, which is dope.
Like this one.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it. Well, how do you pronounce this? So you're going to be the pronunciation person. Every time we go up, you get to...
Dev Kana. I don't know.
Yeah. Dev Kunha? Yeah. It says nice. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Follow Abby on X at Abby Iyer. Follow me on X at smthomas3 until X lets me buy the @Shane handle. I'm trying to buy it, but I don't think I can afford it. We'll see. One day, someday I'll own @Shane. I doubt it. Until then, and probably for always, at smthomas3. Okay, everybody. Have a great day. We will see you next week. Peace.
Peace.